what's up and welcome to your first exercise in 3D animation class. For this project, we will do just a simple logo animation of a late show. So this is a sample output of your project. So I will be requiring you to animate just 60 frames of your logo. So I hope everybody has installed Cinema 4D. I'm using Cinema 4D R21, but don't worry, you can still open the file that I uploaded in Google Classroom in later versions of Cinema 4D. Let's get started. Okay, so I have our module 1 open in my Cinema 4D software. Let's just observe what we have here. So we have a background where we can see the image. If you don't see the image over here, just double click the material. And then here under texture, okay, make sure to reload the city pattern, and then let's click on the dot. And then from your downloads, look for city pattern JPG, and then click open. And then usually that would do the trick so that you would see the image behind us. Okay, so a brief review of how to control the camera in Cinema 4D. You can press 1 to pan the camera. So that's 1 and left click and drag. Press 2 to zoom in, zoom out. Press 3 to rotate it. You can also see the controls over here on your upper right. And you can also look at the different views. So now we are at the perspective view. So let's just maximize this. And then just a quick review of Cinema 4D. We have our object manager here. We can see all of the elements that we need to animate. We have our attributes manager here. So if we select our object, all of our settings can be found here. We also have our coordinates manager so that here you can just select your object and then type the changes that you want to do in your viewport. So let's just reset that as well. And then here at the bottom, we have our materials manager. Over here in your upper left and then above us, we have our tools. So we have our selection tool, our move tool, scale tool, and rotation tool. And then we have all of our other tools over here, but we won't be using them that much in this exercise. So we'll just skip that. Okay, so let's start on how to add keyframes in Cinema 4D. So basically, adding keyframes is very easy. So first, let's select, for example, our letter. So this is the letter L from our late show. You can see when we click on the move tool, we see the axis of our L object. If you want to move the axis, maybe in the middle of our L, you can click on this icon over here. And then once that is turned on, you can click and drag it to move your pivot point or axis. And then if you think you're satisfied with the new position, just deactivate this axis button. So after that, this is how you would add keyframes to your object. So here at the bottom, we have our time slider. And then here we have our add keyframe. And then next to it is our auto keying button. Okay, if this is not turned on, you can click it so it will turn on. First, let's set a keyframe for our letter L. So to set a keyframe, just make sure your time slider is at the very beginning and then click on this icon here at the bottom. There you go, you already have a keyframe. Again, to have a complete animation, you need 2 poses, one before and one after. So this is our before pose. We can actually move this later on. So let's just click and drag this to our timeline. So basically, I'm imagining this is my last pose for my letter L. So I'm gonna move it maybe to the 30 frames mark. Then after that, I'm gonna move my time slider back. And then from here, I will move my letter L away from the camera. Once that is away from the camera, if you have auto keying on, it automatically adds a new keyframe. If not, you can just click on Add Key. So when you select now the letter L object, you can see here in our Attributes Manager, all of our attributes turned red. If it's turned red, it means it has keyframes. Okay? So now you can see our letter L has an initial animation. So let's just continue on adding keyframes to the rest of our objects. So here maybe 30. After 30, I want 40, letter A to settle. I'm gonna add a keyframe, and then maybe A will exit at frame 10. Let's move it forward, and then there you go. So I don't need to add keyframes anymore because I have auto keying activated. Okay, next, let's select our T object. Maybe it will settle at around 50 frames. Let's click on Add Key, and then let's move our time slider back, maybe around frame 20. So here, we can just move this back. So let's check our timing. There you go. And then let's just continue on animating the letter E. So let's select the letter E. Maybe we'll settle this one at the 60th frame. Okay, so let's click on Add Keyframe. Let's move this back, maybe at frame 35. And then let's move this away from the camera. So now I have the LAT objects animating forward. You can also animate other things like rotation as well. So for example, for our bar, let's add a keyframe over here. So maybe it will settle at frame 70. Let's add a keyframe over there. And then let's move back. So for our 30th frame, I'm going to move it away from the camera. At the same time, I will use the rotate tool. So let's just zoom our camera, and then let's just rotate this maybe 90 degrees or 150. And now if you scrub your timeline, you already animated the bar. So maybe we just move this a bit further. Again, you can see that the axis is a bit tricky to manipulate if we already rotated our object. So one solution you could try is changing your axis. So here we have the coordinate system. So if you click this, our axis will change. So we can just move this forward so that it would be easier to animate. And then we can just switch back. Okay, so we have our bar now. And then let's continue with the rest of our letters. So basically this exercise is just practice for you guys on adding keyframes. Okay, so let's select our letter S. Maybe it will settle at frame 80. Let's add a keyframe again. And then let's go back to 60. And then let's move it away from the camera. So there you go. So S. And then H would settle around maybe 85. Then let's add a keyframe again. And then let's move this back to maybe frame 70 and move it away from the camera. So we're almost done. Let's select the letter O object, and then let's make it settle at around 90. So let's click on Add Keyframe, move our time slider back, and then set another keyframe here. All right, and then now our last but not the least is the W. So let's maybe add a keyframe over here, and then let's move this back, then move this W away from our camera. So now we've successfully animated all of our letters. So the next thing we need to do is also animate the camera. So to do that, you need to create a camera from your Cinema 4D scene. So to do that, here at the top, we can add camera. And then to switch this camera to the perspective that you are looking to. Basically, you just need to select it, and then here, as you can see, the square icon, once you click this, so the view that you're seeing right now is your current camera over here. So once that is selected, you can now add keyframes to this camera. So again, for example, let's see, uh, at this position, I'm going to create a keyframe. And then at the very, I accidentally added the keyframe here. So to delete a keyframe, just right click it and then cut or delete. And then here, I also accidentally added a keyframe over here. So let's just delete that as well. So we'll create a new camera position. So let's use the zoom in and pan commands. Okay. And then add a keyframe. So our camera is now moving. So let's add another keyframe, maybe at frame 150. Maybe let's rotate this back and pan this to the left. So if you have your auto keying button on, usually it adds a keyframe automatically. So now I think we can use this. So let's just turn this off so that I won't be able to create new keyframes. So I guess this is a good start for our animation. One thing you should also do, because we will be doing a preview render. Here in filter, let's turn off a few things so that our preview render will be more clean. So number one is let's look for lights. So I'm gonna uncheck the light. If I uncheck this, all of our lights will disappear. And then the next thing is our grid. I'm gonna look for the grid. Okay, and then let's uncheck that. So now we are ready for our preview render. To do a simple preview render, just go to your clapper icon here, then look for the Make Preview button. Okay, so here in the Make Preview window, set the preview mode to Hardware OpenGL, and then all you need to do is click OK. So now Cinema 4D is calculating our preview render. And then here you can see it in our picture viewer. So once we press play, you can see the preview of our animation in our scene. Okay, so to save this as MP4, it's very simple. Just go to File, and then go to Save Image As. Here in the Save dialog box, make sure the format is set to MP4, the type is set to animation. And then after that, just click OK. And then now Cinema 4D will ask you where you want to save it. So let's save it at our desktop. I'm going to name this exercise 1, and then my last name, then first name. Okay, there you go. So this is our first project for our 3D animation class. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward in seeing you in the next tutorial.